All right, y'all, thanks for joining today. We are in a brand new podcast room. So this is a little bit bougier than the first one that we did.
It's fancy. There's no fake plants. We've got blue lighting.
Whoa, fake plants?
Which is,
I like my fake plants.
It looks so nice, Shane.
That's true.
I'm so proud.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I did nothing, and Benchmark did it all, so I appreciate that. My name is Shane. I'm with Benchmark Mortgage, recently branch manager of that, so fun adventure there.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that. Here with Shelby Buehler, and I'll let her introduce herself here.
Yes. Hello, guys. I am Shelby Buehler with the Buehler Group, Keller Williams. We have been in real estate for 37 years here in DFW, and Shane and I called him last week. We wanted to do a podcast because problem is everyone and their mother knows somebody who's in real estate or lending, and you hear the same thing over and over and over from people in the industry where it's like, it's a great time to buy. This is the best time ever. And it's not always true, but I did want to bring on two first-time home buyers who went through this process last year, and this is Connor and Amber. They bought in June of this year, and they went through the whole multiple offers and everything else. So wanted to give an audience the opportunity to hear from you guys, not a professional who's in the industry, but somebody who is a real person who has experienced this whole process. So yeah, let's kind of dive into it.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, thanks for coming, y'all.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
And they actually opened, so this is the first, is this the first Friday, Brittany, I think we've ever done here? First Friday. So y'all are, I think this is the first Friday like's ever been done in this room. So they actually shut down the office in here on Fridays. So y'all should feel very special.
Wow.
Ooh,
Yes.
Or else we would have been cramped into a very tiny 10 by 10 room
nice.
and sitting on each other's laps, which was fantastic. Yes.
No, we were just catching up right before we started, and y'all recently got married like a couple months ago, which is super exciting. And I was just complimenting them on how calm they were throughout, like the whole buying a house, biggest purchase of your life. So that's exciting. And then also to get married. I think you were saying like you were super stressed out before your wedding.
Well, we went through the same thing, and it was when David was on a visa, so he couldn't work. So I was working two jobs, and I was overseeing a house remodel and planning a wedding. We ended up closing in July, and the wedding was in September. So
Same.
yeah,
Thing.
the whole process is during
Stressful.
that period of your life is insanely stressful, and y'all handled
So why
it.
not add more stress?
Yeah, late
Right?
20s,
Yeah.
you know, just double up. Just knock it all out in 1 year.
Just go for it. You know, if you're
We're
gonna
already
be
stressed.
If you're
so
going to
why
be
not?
stressed, just
Yeah.
keep being stressed.
Full send it,
That's
right?
really how you kind of go through life then in your 30s.
So I used to DJ weddings back in the day. So that's what I did.
You
And that
play
was
a
like
lot of YMCA.
all the
Surprising.
YMCAs and the
Chicken
cha-cha
dance.
slides. I drew the line at chicken dance, though. That was not acceptable. Unless it was kids, for the kids maybe. But I figured, like, for my wedding, like, I've done this 1,000 times. Like, I don't need a DJ. So my best friend DJ'd my wedding, and I set up all my own stuff. And my wife, I thought she was going to cancel the wedding before it stared. And
I
love
was
her
about to say, I bet Seb will love
very
that.
much.
Yeah.
And it went great, thanks to tequila. So it's all good. Well, no, but just kind of tell us about, you know, as you're kind of going through, like, what made you actually take the first step to, like, reaching out to just Shelby? Because I know y'all reached out to Shelby first, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of, if you don't mind, like, what made y'all kind of take that first step to going through that with her?
So we moved in together in an apartment in 2021. So we've been dating over a year at that time. So we moved into an apartment because we wanted to just experience living together to see if that would work. And it was great. And then halfway
trial
through,
period.
Yeah, halfway through 2022, we were like, rates are going up. We should maybe look at a house. So we just did like the normal show up on Zillow, look at a house, take a tour, and then if you go on a Zillow, you just get a random person, and they like take you to the house, and we're like, we're not ready for this. We don't really know what's going on. The house we saw had just horrible foundation across the board, and we're like, I don't know if we're really ready for this. We haven't done any financial planning or anything like that. We probably want to just stick at the apartment for a little longer, but like next year we'll look into it. So then the next year...
So I'm hearing you say you didn't have a good experience with the Zillow. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
right?
wasn't-
It was
You
great
didn't-
for window shopping.
It was
but
terrible.
That was
Tell them.
about all it was.
It's like window shopping.
I was looking on Zillow. Like, I would say it was consuming a big part of my life. I was looking at it like most days.
I feel
refresh.
like most millennials just kind of
For
brought
sure.
because
Yeah.
it's fun to look.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like I was getting to a point where I was starting to get more serious about it, and I'm like, hey, look at this home, look at this home, look at this home, and he's like, I don't think we're ready. And then it got to a point where we finally saw one that we were actually like, wow, this is a really nice home. We should look at it. And then we had the conversation of we should probably call somebody because I don't even know where to start with. Like the finance portion of it.
Yeah.
I don't even know what our budget is. How do we even figure out what our budget is?
Yeah.
So then that's when Connor.
Yeah, so I reached out to my cousin who had worked with Shelby before. Actually, her husband had, and just kind of reached out to them, and she gave us a call. She texted and was like, "Hey, are you guys available to call?" Like, it was like, I just want to chat with y'all before we get into it, so I kind of have a baseline of where y'all even want to look, which is a lot better than. Because we didn't even really know where we wanted to look. We were like, DFW. And so initially, and she was just kind of like, well, how far do you want to be from your parents? Like, where do you work? She made us think of things like that. Like, obviously you think like, I don't want to drive that far to work. I don't want to drive that far from my parents. But she was like, these are the cities that you could realistically move into for like those goals. Like, you're not going to be able to live exactly where you want. It's going to be perfect distance from this, but it's like this city, and this city, you can afford realistically within your budgets. And it's like, well, I have a guy, Shane, he's a wizard with numbers. He knows exactly what he's talking about. Like, I'll get you in contact with him and you can actually find out like what you can afford. It's like, and so one thing we kind of started doing then versus what we were doing before is we started budgeting like our normal expenses at the apartment. We started like, how much are we spending each month? It's like, what can we afford and things like that. And so that was when it really started getting serious, was about March. I think is when we first started talking to you. It was like, we want to look for a house. Like if we found a house tomorrow and it's perfect, we could go for it.
Yeah, you could feasibly do it.
So that was when we started actually looking, and that was like everything sped up.
And when was y'all's lease up? When did it end?
It actually ended like around Christmas time. We got really lucky with initially we're going to have to break it. And then it lined up perfectly where they let us actually basically transfer it to someone if we wanted to. So his friend was looking around the same time. So we just transferred it at no cost around like
that's
July,
actually that's pretty lucky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We actually expected in our budget, we had planned break lease.
Yeah. How much was that going to cost?
It was
And
2 months.
It was going to be
so
$4,000.
$4,500.
To pay the 2 months and
apartments
to
are
break it.
so expensive.
Yeah.
But like I found that I find more stories than that than not though. Where like apartment, like people are either able to get creative and like get a friend to sublease, right?
Yeah.
Or apartments they have a waiting list. So people,
We
apartments just
basically
want to get paid at the end of the day.
Included breaking lease and like expected closing costs.
Yeah.
We worked out a deal with him. Like we gave my buddy like $2,000 for him to take it because it would have been $4,500 for us.
Yeah,
and
then you're still saving $2,500.
Yeah, and
at that
he
point.
couldn't afford
And
it
it's a-
because he
it's a
couldn't
deal-
afford it
it's a
on his
deal
own.
for
It was a
him.
2-bedroom
Yeah.
apartment. He couldn't afford it on his own, but he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I can pay what I pay now at your place and have a 2-bedroom." And it's like, and I'll just look in 6 months. So it worked out great for him because he got to live in a 2-bedroom apartment by himself, and he didn't pay anything extra.
And he got to look for an apartment.
And he
in
got to
December,
spend
which is-
6 months to look for an apartment instead of paying to move somewhere in July, which everyone knows
Is insane.
is the most expensive renting.
Yeah.
month. He got to look in December, January, which is a lot cheaper.
So we definitely got some luck there.
That's awesome. I love it. What was it like? What part, if any, was it like overwhelming or like stressful? Like up to this point, was it like making that first phone call, like, or was it just the budgeting part? Like, what did y'all find difficult as you're going through?
Like in the very beginning, I would say just we were also planning for a wedding, so like the stress about like can we afford the down payment, closing costs, and wedding.
It always
like-
came back to money. Like
Yeah.
it was anything like the biggest stress that we had was money. Like, oh, if this is broken, it's money. Oh, if like interest rates are this, then it's money. If we have to go over the asking, that's more money. It was always money. And then we had like a wedding. So it was like,
So you're saying it's all my fault?
No, actually, like
That's what I'm hearing you say.
you helped us realize like one thing we.
it's more having.
So everyone
having
we
the
talked
money.
to, everyone we talked to was older or bought a house during COVID time or like before COVID.
When prices were
were-
reasonable for a
Yeah,
house.
and so even like even one of my friends who bought a house like in 2022, he had already had a home and he had way more money. So he was like, yeah, you get the 20% and stuff. It's like, we were
big
like,
deal.
oh, it's
Yeah.
impossible. And like a lot of my friends think it's still impossible. Now it's like you can do 3%, you can do 5%, which is a lot more realistic.
And
Yeah.
and I think that's actually, it's so, because I've preached this over and over and over, and I've talked, and I feel like I come across one buyer a week who is a first-time home buyer, and they're like, I don't have the money saved up. I'm like, well, how much money do you have saved up? And they're like, probably about 15 or 20,000. And I'm like, what price range do you think that you're in? And they're like, I just want some really simple 3-bed, 2-bath, just single family home. I'm like, you're good. And they're like,
Yeah.
what? And I'm like, the average down payment nowadays, what is it now?
So the average first time home buyer puts, I want to say it was like some random number, like 4.1% down. So like less than 5% down.
It's
for the
it's
first-time
less
home
than
buyer.
5%. And
Overall average down payment is like 10%.
Yeah, and I come across so many first-time homebuyers who all they've heard about buying houses is from their parents, and they're like, "Oh, well, I need 20% down." I'm like,
Yeah.
"No,
No, you
no."
That's an
We would not own a
impossible
home.
goal. Yeah.
It's not really possible in today's market to actually do that. But no, it's
Unless you already own a home and you get the equity, I don't think it's possible.
Yeah,
No.
it's tough.
Or you have very, very wealthy family that help you out. I
yeah.
just don't see 20%.
Or you've been stocking away money since
Yeah.
you were
Or you lived at home for
18,
4 years.
18
yeah.
years old, and you're buying a home at 40 and it's your first
Yeah.
house, then maybe, but first time home buyers, it's not really feasible for somebody, a millennial in our generation, to have that amount of money saved.
Yeah.
So like, what about the budgeting? When you mentioned that you're going through and try to figure out like the budgeting side of everything, was that so? Did we have our conversation first and then you had the budgeting conversation, or was it?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
We kind of started looking. So we had a spreadsheet because like we were just dating, and we kind of get tired of, oh, will you Venmo me for this? Will you Venmo me for that? Like over and over again. So we had a spreadsheet that I built that just kind of just tracked expenses that we would do is like, oh, rent's this, electricity's this, and kind of like what our monthly expenses were. There are no matter what expenses,
Like
right?
subscriptions, like all of the
Subscriptions.
things. So we knew.
Important things like Spotify, Netflix,
Yeah.
things you can't live without.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They add up.
Those
So-
are at the top of my budget.
So we're like, what is, the max that we're spending? And then, what do we want to have like as like wiggle room? Like obviously we don't want to spend
Sure.
all of our money.
Yeah, and
So like what were we comfortable with? And so that was a conversation we had to like put down on paper
Yeah.
and then talk about like with our goals.
Yeah.
What
God,
did
y'all
we
are
feel
so much
comfortable
more responsible than my wife and I.
yeah.
And us. I remember you came in, you're like, you can do it. I'm like, all right, we're doing it. I don't care. We're gonna buy the house.
But no, I love that. I love that how, and I think it showed through the process on y'all's confidence with stuff. Because I can't tell you how many times I talk to buyers, and which I want to be clear. Like I love talking to buyers as early in the process as possible, but like it's almost like they have no idea what their budget looks like at all, and I feel like this process can be so overwhelming and scary when you kind of have a plan, but if you have no idea what you're doing, I think it's part of because I'm a millennial. Shelby's a millennial. I think something that's really common with millennials is we don't want to be sold to. I
No,
think if we're not confident if we don't have a general plan, you can correct my plan, but I'm going to do research on good old Google and Reddit the crap out of it until I feel like I have a path. And then you can correct me afterwards. And I think you guys did a fantastic job at going in that initially up front.
Well, our initial call helped too. I mean, he has a finance background, but all of that stuff just goes straight over my head. So, we're on the phone, and I was literally sitting there taking notes. I was like, such detailed notes, because I knew I'd forget it. And so then I was trying to understand, well, what do all of those expenses mean?
Yeah.
'cause
And then one thing, this is actually something that I think people will get really helpful for because I didn't know it. And it's probably the only reason we were able to get a house when we were is like you can take up to $10,000 tax free from your 401k if you're a first time home buyer. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea because like I was looking at my savings things like I can't do this and I don't want her to go to zero to give 100% of this down payment. It's like I want to split this 50-50 with her just from a general feel good about it situation and just to have savings in case the worst of the worst happens. And so we were able to, like, I was able to go into my active 401k and withdraw 10K tax free because I thought 10K at 0% compared to the interest rates, it's like, it's saving me money. Over the course of 10 years, I don't think my account would have grown at the rate that saving me the down payment and the stress and all that stuff would have come over. And that was finding out I could do that was really the last step of like, let's make the call. Let's do it.
So
Let's push
cool.
forward.
I needed that.
Yeah, I needed that to be able to just, let's make the call. Like we had chatted briefly, but that was kind of like, let's start looking at houses.
Yeah.
Which I think, I mean, you know, $10,000 towards the price of a house or a down payment is only going to save you like $70 a month, right? But I think, like, what you're saying is like it just gave you the bit of confidence. Like, I don't know about you, but me as a dude, like, if my savings goes below a certain point, like, I'm like, all right, spouse,
I don't sleep well.
the Amazon account is shut down. The credit cards are frozen.
Yeah.
We're eating ramen noodles, like, for however long it takes to get it back, right?
Yeah,
So
it wasn't even the like, oh, I can save this much a month off of it. It was I can get the down payment and then I can get a couch. I can get I can paint the walls if I need to. I don't.
You can remove popcorn ceilings like y'all did. Yeah.
did you do that yourself?
No. Oh, we paid someone.
Yeah, my dad attempted to do it in their house, and I'm shocked he's still married.
I have a friend who's
Alive, yeah.
I have a friend who's
that was the biggest thing for me. I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
I have a friend who's in construction and says like, no, we pay someone to do it. So I was
That's
like,
hilarious.
I was like, it's one of those things.
Hey, it made a world of difference that your house looks really good.
I'm glad we did it.
She was so happy.
That's awesome.
It is the nicest feeling, like if you're doing some sort of remodel in your house and you save the money and you're like, all right, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And we're doing it. You freshly paint everything and you look at it, you're like, oh, thank God. It looks,
And that was one of those things that we were like,
it's such a rewarding
We
feeling
have
because
to
you're
do
like,
it.
this is mine. And
yeah, we knew we wanted to paint, but it was more like the ceilings were like, if we do it, we got to do it now before we move everything in. So we were like debating it for a little bit.
Removing popcorn
decided to.
ceilings when you live in a house is never something I would ever suggest
Yeah.
to anybody. So when y'all, because I remember speaking to you the first time, was there any sort of something you thought before starting the process that ended up not being true whenever you actually did start the process? So like a lot of first-time home buyers, 20% down payment.
Yeah.
You can do 3 to 5%.
Yeah.
For a conventional loan. VA's 0%, FHA
3.5.
3.5. Yeah. Was there anything that y'all thought outside of like a down payment?
I thought realtors cost money,
Oh,
so they're free. So
for now.
that was nice. So,
I can't touch that too much because everything that's going on right now.
but
I can
that-
touch on it. So
Yeah, no, he
I'll touch
can.
on it on her behalf. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that like the seller pays for all realtor costs, right? So it's the buyers don't pay anything for that.
Yeah.
So that's so y'all, that's something that y'all thought as well. On
Yeah,
your end.
I actually knew that.
She knew that, but I didn't. Like, I found that out pretty fast. But like, it was something I didn't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. What else y'all kind of run into as far as?
I didn't know how much closing costs were.
Yeah.
I knew that they were pricey, but I didn't realize that was going to be a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I think it was like a lot of things you didn't realize that even though the housing market was competitive and like you'd have to buy up, I didn't realize like how many people would go to an open house, like how difficult it was to just, if
How
you were
many
at
people would go over? I was shocked, like right now, or at least at the time, with the interest rates.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like, wow, you're going that much over? We were struggling with going like a little bit over, and people were just, way out there with their
Yeah. No, and
offers.
that is one of the issues and the kind of tough conversations I have to have with some first-time home buyers. Like, oh, well, rates have gone up, and all I hear from the mainstream media or CNN or Fox or MSNBC is the housing market's crashing, so I can get a deal. That's I have to hold that in, so I can get a deal. So I love this house. I want to offer $50K under asking. because they've been on the
Did you say
market.
under?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm like, I'm gonna piss off a seller by sending this in. It's a very tough conversation to have because the market's not crashing. Home prices haven't come down. Right now, even with just over 8% interest rates that we saw in October when they peaked, home prices were just stable.
Yeah.
They
'Cause
weren't.
If rates go down, people can move. So there's more people selling. But if rates go down, more first-time home buyers are buying. If rates go up, less people can sell. But the people that still need a house are still buying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's also less inventory.
There's less supply. The demand might not be increasing, but there's less supply.
More of a supply, supply squeeze. And we've already seen it. We saw interest rates go down back to, March 2023 numbers back in early January. They went down to, at one point, about 6.5%. So they've gone up a little bit. Now they're back up to the high sixes. But they're projected to continue to go down quite a bit on there. So, and we're already seeing home buyers start to enter the marketplace because, people were sitting on the sidelines. Now they heard the news that rates went down. So we're already starting to see, Shelby and I were just talking about the other day, we're already, we've had a couple offers that we actually put in for buyers that were good offers and they did not get accepted because we're now in a bidding war again.
We had literally the house David showed today to one of our buyers who she's selling her home in Pharma and she's also buying, but fortunately she can buy. She doesn't have to sell in order to buy. He went to show her at, I think, 11:30, and as he pulled up, somebody was leaving the house. As they were in the house, another buyer showed up with their agent, and then as they were about to drive away, another buyer showed up with their agent. So it's like, as soon as this happens, if rates drop below 7% and people are starting to hear the news, rates are dropping, all of the buyers are like, oh, we can refinance.
Yeah,
let's start now.
For sure.
That was also part of why we were like, we'll go to the max of like what we could. We didn't plan on it, but we were like, well, we can refinance if we have to.
That was like the hope that that's something we could always do.
We could take
better
a year.
now than the reverse. So.
Well, think
sure.
about, so what if y'all's house came up on the market when rates were at 5.8 or 6%?
Yeah.
no chance.
There's just no,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Yeah.
Because you'd be bidding against, well, fortunately, y'all's situation was a little bit different, but if it was on the market, y'all would be bidding against probably 10 to 15 other buyers.
Yeah.
And it would have gotten insane.
Yeah.
So, no, it's, I say it till I'm blue in the face, but this is why I wanted to have people who went through the
Other
process.
people.
Yes.
I know. What other what other challenges kind of went through is, what are some challenges that you went through as you got under contract on the house, found the house, got under contract. Like, talk about some of the different challenges or hurdles that popped up from that point all the way through funding.
I would say once we kind of got to the funding process, it was just more so like getting everything ready. Like, I had to go through Fidelity for the 401k thing, making sure that would work. And like, luckily I was able to call Shane whenever, and if he wasn't available, someone on his team was available, and I could talk to him. I was like, hey, how do I get this money? He was like, oh, you just call Fidelity. They'll handle it. No problem. And then once I had it, he goes, well, we already did your financial background check, so you're good on our end. Like, you don't have to prove that you've already pushed through this because you already have the money set aside. Like, you just have to be able to make the closing payment. So really, it was just more so like my end finalizing stuff, making sure I had all the money where it needed to be, and then not buying a couch or anything like that for last credit checks.
Stay away from a Nebraska Furniture Mart.
Yeah. Don't buy a car or go on a shopping spree to Nebraska during the period that you are buying a house. If you're under contract, don't do a big expense.
It was more so
please.
just like, don't go do stuff. So like, honestly, once we had our first talk, like, we felt like we could get it. Like, we were approved for far more than we could realistically afford and live comfortably. So that was one of our things too. And my brother was recently asking us like, hey, do you think you'll I get approved? Like, with my fiance, is like, we make this much. It's like, what do you think you'd be approved for? It's like, honestly, probably be approved for like $100K more than your mental max budget. So like if you have a mental max budget, don't worry about getting approved unless your credit is awful. You're probably going to be approved for $100K over what you expect to be able to afford.
Yeah, just because you're approved for that amount of money does
mean you can
not
afford
mean
it.
you want to be making those monthly payments every
Absolutely.
single
So you realistically wouldn't be in a situation where you're not approved for what you can afford.
Yeah.
Now, if you try to get an $800,000 house, you make $100,000 a year, you're probably not going to get that. But like $400,000 house, you could realistically get if you make around
100, 120. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we started, it was both David and I helping you guys. David primarily showed y'all homes. Y'all were in a pretty hot market. How many homes did you...
Many.
I know the answer to this, but I do want other first-time home buyers to hear about it. How many homes did you have to submit on before you found the one that you ended up buying, and how did that process feel for you? Because I have to talk buyers off a cliff from quitting.
So I would say
4 or 5 offers.
on our final home, I legitimately do not, like I'm not just saying this because she's right here. I legitimately do not think we would have got if it wasn't for Shelby and David. They found it. Like it was going to go on market soon, and she found it. For all
we
the
made
other
that decision
ones,
in a day, and that was probably like the
I remember
most-
that phone call. David
Yes.
was at football
Stressful.
practice, and I was like,
We were at a soccer game.
we were at a soccer game.
He was
She
taking the call
literally-
at halftime, and he's like, "There's a house. I'm coming off for like air to like breathe," and I'm like, "I can't right now."
Yeah, but we started looking in March, and then we started looking with Shelby, and we would just go look at 2-3 houses a weekend. And then David kind of took over showing the houses because David became like Shelby. David is her husband, and we started looking at. I would say on average like 2-3 houses a weekend. We would put in maybe an offer every other weekend.
I think y'all got to like 6.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
put in
we had,
6 offers before our final house. And one thing that we kind of like
That's
Looking-
tough, dude.
Yeah.
Like to
Well, mentally too.
to
It's
get
like
excited about a house and like you know even though
you have to have some level of excitement if you're putting in an offer.
like you're committing.
And y'all were putting in good offers.
Yeah. The first one sucked, but I remember that home went way over. So we were like, well, I mean, there
Yeah.
was never a chance. But then each time I felt like we were closer and closer, so then it hurt more. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, what if we did this? We could have got it.
Yeah.
You know, and that started to suck.
I think one of the things we learned the most is like we didn't have to go over cash wise. There was a lot of other things that we
Yeah.
could do. Like you could offer to waive the title fee and stuff like that. And like sellers usually assume they're going to pay that. So if they get to save an extra $2K, that's not going on my loan. That's not going on towards like that extra $2K is not going to go towards my interest rate and things like that. I'm just sweetening a deal essentially.
Yeah. That doing a shorter option period, waiving a home warranty, which
And one of the-
you're experiencing a home warranty fun right now with your garage door.
And then like another thing is when we eventually did get the house we wanted, the lady still wanted to live there for a little longer, and we weren't ready to move like the next day. So we just offered a lease back.
You guys did a free lease back for
so
2
she got
weeks.
we sold the house, but she got to live there for another 3 weeks. And I mean, we weren't going to move in, but her knowing that she didn't have to pay $1,000 rent to people in her own home helped her a lot. And it was honestly maybe one of the things that pushed us over the edge. She was like, I'm good with this. Like I get to live here before I move out, so she's not stressed.
Yeah.
And like just little things that we could do. But yeah, I would say there was a house we bid an actual offer on that didn't have a garage connected to the back. And I would say looking back on it, I wish we would have made stronger offers for houses we liked more. And then like some of the other houses, like
I think we were starting to overlook things that like I think would have bothered us. That would have bothered us, but at the time we were like starting to get desperate.
You're like, I just want a house, man. I just
And at the
really want a
time,
house.
We didn't do any of those additional things, and then like when we didn't get it, because we were actually a backup offer, and I remember thinking, well, maybe if we would have, tossed in the title or the survey, and then I'm so glad that we didn't get it.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like,
but then
should have done it.
when we got shown the house that we eventually bought, she was like, we can do this, this, and this. I was like, and I recommend doing all 3. I was like, and there's this 4th thing you can do. if you want, it's like you just have to trust me on this. We're gonna do it, and then you have a 3-day window to see the house and like decide. You're not locked in. You're only locked in for $200 when you put in that initial offer. So if you want to back out in 3 days after you like get a better look at it,
Appraisal waiver? Is that what it was?
No, it was
option fee.
it was locking a house up.
For the option
And
fee. Or the option period.
the whole situation with this house. So I'm a part of a bunch of different off-market Facebook groups for realtors, investors, and a lot of them are private groups. You have to be an agent in a certain office.
They're kind of a big deal. I understand. I know what you're saying.
I
Yeah.
try my best, yeah. But the thing is, I found now 3 buyers properties in those groups
It's
that
wild.
if it went on the market, no chance, absolutely no chance. And this one in particular came up and it checked every single box.
The yard's huge.
I'm panic calling you guys. I'm
You
like,
said the yard's huge?
the yard's massive. The yard is massive.
She's like saying everything's perfect. And Connor's like, the yard was huge.
Yard's yeah.
Yard.
It was also at our like absolute max budget.
It
So
wa-
it was
it-
like a leap of faith.
It was, and it's one of those where it's like they'll post these houses on these Facebook groups, and they're like, "Well, it's going to go live on this date." And I remember it was Memorial Day weekend that I saw it initially, and I'm frantically texting the agent before I even talked to you guys about it because it depends on how quickly you can call them or text them. Sometimes they're just like, "Screw it, we're just going to go with our friend." But it is set to go on the market. That's the whole thing. So you're on a very tight time frame to impress the seller with a really good offer because sellers know, especially if they're cute, homes are selling over asking. And so I have to talk to buyers, but guys, you've got to put something forward where it's like, hey, it's worth it to them to not have to deal with the headache of showings.
Yeah.
So I think it was originally going to be listed at like $389.
It was like 380.
Yeah, 380, 380, something
385,
around
yes.
there. And then y'all ended up doing the works.
Yeah.
So I think you offered to pay for title, you offered a free lease back,
Yeah.
you shortened the option period,
Yeah.
everything. But fortunately, if that house would have come on the market, probably would have sold.
Oh, it's already worth
and that
30
actually
grand
helped
more.
us too because we were like, oh, well, I feel like we're getting it for a deal because we're like,
Yeah,
it would go way over.
you're paying after some of the stuff we did was like we're paying 15 over, but we paid 25 over for a house and got outbid.
Yeah.
So like just
And
15.
you got to live in the city that you wanted to live in.
Yeah, we got to live in Flower Mound.
Yeah, we basically were giving up on Flower Mound at the time too.
Yeah.
So that
Y'all
kinda
were like, all right, Carrollton,
came out of
Farmers
left field.
Branch,
Yeah.
one of those.
Did you just say you bought a house 4 months ago and your value is already how much higher?
35, 40.
4 months later. But wait, I thought the market was crashing.
Home prices are just
Home
tanking.
prices are going down though, Shelby.
It's crazy.
That's wild. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. I'm so,
So
stoked
it's
for
great
y'all.
thoughts wise, but taxes wise, we're a little worried. But then we got the 100K tax thing that just came through.
Yeah, that came out.
Yeah.
I think it was like on,
Yeah, homestead.
it was like it wasn't even passed yet though. I think they were talking about
Passed-
pushing it
passed
through.
this November.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like when you bought though.
Yeah,
Right.
when we bought, it was just
Right.
It was-
expected to be passed.
Yeah.
just
Right.
hopeful.
Yeah, and actually went through, and now
Yeah.
you guys are getting huge savings. That's awesome.
Yeah, make sure you get a homestead if you buy a house. Homestead your house.
Please. Oh God. Yeah. No.
I still talk to buyers because we do an annual review, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll call you and
I'm actually about to film a video
8 months.
after this podcast about how to file a homestead, like going through it, doing like a loom.
You save
and
100,000 in taxes. Well, you don't save 100,000, but your value goes to 100,000.
the county writes you a $95,000 check.
do
But
it.
like,
the dream.
it's just for people that own one home. So
Yeah.
like, if you have a second home, you can't homestead it.
Yeah, it has to be your primary residence, and the reason it's so important. So, my dad, for example, he has a little rental house over in Louisville. It's not his primary residence, so he cannot file a homestead on it. What a homestead does is it keeps the county from raising the value over 10% year over year. So
Yeah.
you're looking at years from 2019, 2020, and then 2021 when property values just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And they went up almost 36% in some areas. Now,
In a year.
yeah, in a year, he didn't have a
Dude,
homestead.
imagine your taxes going up 36%. a year. That's like your mortgage payment just went up 15%. That's
Yeah.
insane.
So file a homestead.
Yeah.
When you buy a house, I will check out my Instagram. I'll put a video up on how to file a homestead. But it is
100%.
probably the most important thing that
sure.
you do as soon as you buy.
The woman who owned the home before us had the homestead for 2023. So when we applied, it was rejected 23, but it applied to our house for 23.
Yeah.
And then it applies forward for 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
you
the-
never have to file again. You file it one time,
time.
That's
and
good.
it's done. And then when you turn 65 years old, something to look forward to.
Senior
right.
exemption.
You get another exemption.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, next year, right? So, well, so what about? Is there anything that you would do differently throughout the process? Any changes you would have made, kind of as you're going through everything there?
I would probably say, I think I kind of touched on it earlier. While I don't regret the house we got, I love the house we got. It's probably my favorite of all the houses we saw. Making like slightly stronger offers on houses we really wanted, because if that house didn't show up, we might have gave up. And so we got lucky that she was looking out for us and found it, and we were able to just leap of faith, we'll go for it. And it was one of the best things we could have done. But like there was another house that we really liked that was in Carrollton that I think if we would have done the title waiver thing, like just made a slightly stronger offer for the house we were in, we would have got it.
Yeah.
And then, so like probably that. And
Yeah, because even those offers were lower than what we ended up getting for this house.
Yeah.
And we were worried about those things. So, and we're fine now. So it's like, I wish I could have told myself, like, you can afford to make that stronger offer.
So I think some buyers figure it out at their own pace, and it is one of those where it's like, we can tell buyers this until we're blue in the face, but once you start losing out on homes, it's like, okay, it'll start clicking where it's like, hey, you kind of in the market we're in, you're gonna have to do like certain things in order to get homes that you really, really want, and it may take 5 or 6 rejections. We're like, okay, finally, I'm like, this is it. This is the one. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and I really want a house.
And then my dad had a good piece of advice for us. Was like, go drive to your house at night. Like, do you feel comfortable driving in that area at night? Because there was one of the houses we
I
looked
never
at.
actually thought about that.
It's like one of the houses we looked at and was like, this area seems okay. And we were debating. It was like one of the very first houses we looked at, the one in,
Farmer's Branch.
yeah. It was like we were
I
debating.
remember. Well, driving into it, it's like, and then you turn to the neighbor, you're like,
Oh, it's really pretty.
it's really nice.
Yeah, yes.
The chickens.
And then
The chickens, I do kind of wish y'all got the house.
The actual house had chickens?
Yes.
Yeah, they had chickens that came with the house.
No, they did not.
Yeah, they're like chickens.
was a chicken coop in the
can
back.
come with the house. They were offering the chickens with the house.
Yeah.
Dude, if that was during 2020, that would have been an extra like $15,000 to the house.
Honestly, prices of eggs these days, 100%. I would toss them an extra $10K for the chickens.
Yeah. So that was one of the things we did that was like we knew the Flower Mound area where we ended up getting is like right by all the nice, like it's next to Marcus High School.
We actually still drove by it that night.
We still drove by it that night,
But
yeah.
after the game,
Did you?
we went by
yeah,
it.
so we still drove by it and it's like, this is great. Like, but that was really a good piece of advice because you can't change where your house is if you
No.
buy it. You have to buy a new one. You can change the kitchen.
You can
Yep.
change the cosmetic stuff.
Yeah.
You can't really change the bones
Yeah.
or the location.
So that was like a big thing. It's like where you buy matters a lot
Yeah.
more. And like it's Flower Mound for us. So we knew like realistically if the market like worst case scenario, the housing market gets bad, right? People are still going to want to move to Flower Mound for their kids.
Yeah.
If it gets bad, we either be living there, not moving, or if we sold, ours would be one of the last areas in the Metroplex to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we wouldn't be in
Flower Mound is pretty well, like
Yeah.
Texas itself is pretty well insulated.
Yeah.
From my parents went through 07, 08, and fortunately Texas, it was hit, but it was not as bad
Yeah.
as the majority of the country.
Detroit.
And then you think about cities within Texas, and it's like Flower Mound is one of the most insulated cities
Yeah.
in case the market does have a downturn because people are wanting to see what the school ratings are.
Yeah.
Can I say? Can you say that?
Probably not.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
just
like-
I think just the biggest
Why
thing
they
is
drive at night?
yeah,
Yeah.
when you drive at night, how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and everything on that.
Like we knew we could make like a stronger offer for a place that we really like the location, because if you make the stronger offer, you're tighter on your budget and you're like a little more stressed for at least the first year or two. But like if you're happy where you're going to be, you feel better about it. Whereas somewhere else, you're like, I really like this house, be good. Don't want to make as strong of an offer.
Yeah.
So like it really influenced
Yeah.
how strong. For like this place, everything was great. So we're like, we'll just make the strongest possible offer. If we don't get it, we don't get it.
I love that. Yeah.
So
That's awesome, man. What about is the home warranty a tough like a sore subject? I'm just curious. Like,
No, we just had to use
We-
it. Well,
so you paid out of your own pocket.
The
No,
seller
no,
did.
the
it.
seller.
did.
I left the homework. I just left it in
Oh,
there.
just boop, just snuck it on in there.
I was like, it's
Yeah, you have to
fine.
pay. You
So
pay $100
Shelby
for something
talked
to
the
come out.
seller into paying for your home warranty.
Our garage just broke, so we need to figure out.
Yeah, the cable. The
Snapped.
cable on their garage thing is They can
So-
manually do it on the tracks, but
Was that something y'all knew that was a thing before?
I'd heard about it with my friend that had a new build. I didn't know it was like for other
well, I had
houses
heard
too.
Yeah.
like it's not really worth it, is what I had heard from people. But we
Yeah.
weren't going to be paying for it anyway.
Sure.
So it was
So why
like,
not?
sure, yeah. I mean, you still have to pay for the claim.
yeah.
So,
But we're hoping that it covers like 90% of this garage,
because they have
which
to
would be great.
They have to redo it.
Yeah, they have to redo
But
the
yeah,
garage.
y'all have one of the older systems, I
Yeah.
think. And
We have
yeah.
something from the 90s. The guy said he's never worked on it before in his life.
Really?
Yeah, he said, I can't do this. I can give you a T-bar.
Great.
And he said, I will send it to the home warranty that it's completely broken.
Fantastic.
So they'll
Okay.
cover more of it.
Which I mean, a lot of people don't know. I think that's huge. That like I think the thought process is a lot of buyers think that you only get a home warranty that's worth it, right? If you buy a new home. So if it's free, if you sneak it in from the seller, like it's worth the $70.
Yeah.
I mean, I replaced my garage door. It was like $1,000 to replace the tracks and the motor,
Yep.
and it's outrageous.
Yeah. It's
So-
a cost that you obviously don't expect either.
Yeah, for
so.
sure.
That's
for sure.
that's home ownership in a nutshell.
For
But
sure.
Granted,
I did think
That-
it would be more expensive to like fixing stuff around a home. So that was a nice surprise.
yeah. And I mean, think about it. It's y'all's home value is going up by what, like 30 grand,
Yeah,
and
30, 40 grand.
you've had to spend on what on maintenance?
Besides paint.
Well, we probably have to replace the washer.
we got that from
we
the
also
seller.
put a home warranty in for
Ah,
that.
yes,
too.
no, you got the washer and the dryer
Yeah.
from the seller.
Yeah.
There's negotiation on that.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Just love that in there, dude.
Snuck it in there, yeah. That's great. Love that. Man, you're great, Shelby. Sneak some more stuff in there in the contract.
Try
she
my
wanted
best.
to charge us the one person we bought from
Oh,
wanted to
God,
charge
yes,
us
she
more,
did.
like 2-3 grand for the washer, dryer, and fridge, and we were like, we'll give you 500, and she said no. And we're like, okay,
She got angry.
1,000, or you can take the fridge and washer and dryer yourself. And most people don't want to deal with moving
No,
that.
because I think she was moving cross country or
Yeah,
something
so-
along the lines. And and I was like, okay, that's fine. You can just
So
move it yourself.
You just left it?
Don't
No,
no.
so she just
She
took
came
the offer.
back.
Yeah.
She took the offer.
Yeah.
Just an extra. Like we just lump in our heads. So many things we got, we just lumped into closing costs in our
Yeah.
head. Like $1,000 extra is.
for washer,
For
dryer,
washer,
and
dryer, fridge.
I'll take it.
Yeah, that was a nice fridge too.
I call it
The
the,
fridge-
the
the fridge is
Costco.
nice.
It's the Costco mentality.
Yeah.
Like you can't go to Costco without spending like, I don't know about y'all, like $300. So when I'm there, I'm
This
like,
is why I don't go to Costco.
it's only $1,000 for this new dishwasher. Like, might as well, you know?
Yeah.
And then
We're
you just
already here.
trip to Disney,
This is-
whatever.
it's
Why not,
fine.
you know?
Yeah.
Just don't look at your bank account afterwards.
No,
you go
don't
to,
do that.
You go to Costco and you're good.
100%. 100%. So one of the final questions I want to ask, any tips for anyone that's hesitant about entering the market right now? Like what would you tell a friend that asks you that we're just kind of unsure about the market overall?
Do you want to go? I think one of the tips I would have is just like there's no harm in looking. You get to kind of feel for what you like and what you don't like. Like in the beginning of our search, we saw there was a couple houses that I really thought I wanted, like this in a house. Like I thought I really, really wanted like the master bedroom to have a nice bathroom, which we ended up with that. But like when I was looking around houses, like it didn't bother me as much when I was touring it. Like, oh,
there are other things that were more important.
Yeah, there were other things that were more important that I never thought of. Like one of the houses we looked at, she didn't realize was she wanted the kitchen to be able to see the living room easily. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And until you're in a house that doesn't have that, you don't realize you want that. And so like touring a couple houses really made a difference.
You kind of figure it out too.
Yeah. And the areas too. Like I feel like we learned a lot about the areas just by driving to them consistently.
Yeah.
So after a while, we're kind of like, I don't know.
They have a website for their houses that was better than Zillow. It showed you all the houses. Like once you like get with a realtor, it shows you the houses in the area that are in your price range that were a lot better than Zillow. Because like Zillow, you can do your searching, like window shopping. But this one was like, here's this house, and here's like 5 right next to it that are similar price that you can look at that are coming to the market. And then you get to see like photos of those, and you can just be like, I want to look at this one, and while we're there, we'll check out these 2 that are a mile away, or 2 miles away.
Well, and it's always difficult sometimes because I'm like, I try to tell buyers, I'm like, don't look at Zillow. Don't look at Zillow. Don't look at Realtor. Because all of these third-party sites, they all filter from the MLS, the multiple listing service. Mm-hmm. Like, that is where they get their data from. So if you give me a criteria, I'm going on and I can set up an automated home search where I'm plugging in everything and I can click active and coming soon. And the one thing these sites don't have that the MLS does is coming soons.
Yeah, we got to tour houses that weren't even on Zillow yet.
Yeah, they don't show on Zillow until they go active. So you're seeing houses before they even hit the market, and you're like, oh, okay, well this makes sense. I want to go see this. But yeah, y'all's situation is slightly different with a Facebook group, and I'm panic texting
Not
you.
all
like,
realtors stalk Facebook. Yes, very true. 100%.
I think something I also might add is that I thought the process was going to be way more scary than it was. I mean, like, we had you guys. I mean, obviously, without you guys, we couldn't have got it. I mean, obviously. But even just, like, all the questions that we had, like, we would ask, and then it just reassured us, or you'd answer it. You'd tell us exactly what we needed to do. Like, I really thought so much more of it was going to fall on us, and it just wasn't. It's not true.
I think that's a common misconception for first-time
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, and thank you
Appreciate
guys. Is I've said this 1,000 times. I really wish they would teach something senior year of high school, where it's how to budget, how to file your taxes, intro into homeownership, how the process works, what are the steps,
How to change an AC filter, how to turn off your water main.
I'm about to make a video on that too because the freeze is coming up.
How to put a faucet cover on. I had no idea. I had to go on YouTube.
We were going to go buy one on the way home.
There you go.
And the first conversation I have with first-time home buyers, I'm like, I promise this process isn't as daunting as it seems. It's really, really not. If you have people who you can trust and who you can go to at any time of day, be like, hey, I'm worried about this, they should be able to alleviate all of your concerns, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's a massive investment, and we treat it that way. It's a huge deal to us that people actually choose to work with us. But we want buyers to know that we have their back. Like this, it should be a fun process. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't want to rip your hair out throughout the entire thing.
Yeah. And I think the trust part is really important. Like, I'm super grateful they all trusted both of us. Like, you could have used anyone. There's thousands of realtors, thousands of lenders in the area that you could have thrown a stone at to hit 5, and y'all chose us. And I think that's what I would tell a buyer right now is, and I tell buyers that often, like, I'm biased. I hope you trust me and I hope you pick me. But if it's not me, go find someone that you do, because this is the biggest purchase of your life and I want you to feel good about it. And if I can't make you feel good about it, someone else can.
Yeah. I think, what was the stat that just came out? It was 49% of realtors in 2023 sold 1 home or less.
Oh, what?
Yeah, 49%. In 2023, all realtors who have their license that are active have sold 1 home or less in the calendar year of 2023. So I know everyone and their mother knows a real estate agent or a lender, and it's like, if they haven't done business in the last 6 months, the market is changing so rapidly.
Crap, the last 90 days.
Oh my
you know?
God.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, 79% of statistics are actually totally made up.
I thought it was only 20.
I don't know. I just made it up.
I
I'm
hate
not
us for that joke so much.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. And I know it's a little bit late on a Friday, so I'm sure you have more twisted teas to drink at home and stuff. And I think, a couple key takeaways that I had is I had no idea that the 10,000 IRA withdrawal thing was such a big deal, right? I tell that to a lot of buyers, and I love hearing feedback like that. I'm going to work that into every single buyer presentation I have moving forward.
Yeah,
period.
it was a huge. I would say probably the biggest thing. For me
That's
that
so-
made
That's
it
awesome,
possible.
dude. I love hearing. I mean, this today was awesome because
'Cause
that main
like-
point was worth it on its own. So
I would have been at saving 0.
yeah.
Yeah. Especially because we had the wedding too.
Yeah, because we had the wedding.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like,
That was like an extra.
Could I
Which
do
y'all
the
are
house?
crazy, by the way,
Yeah.
for buying a house and doing a wedding all within a few months.
Don't recommend. But then also we got to enjoy the married life without the additional stress of trying to find a home because we
Yeah.
already did that.
Yeah.
100%.
So the
100%.
honeymoon was really just like, wow, we have nothing.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
yeah. Now
I
we're
love
just
that.
sitting waiting for those March bonuses to feel normal again.
Yes. Yes. Second takeaway is driving the neighborhood at night. I love that.
I'm
will
going
tell
to start
people-
recommending that to all
Yeah.
of my buyers. Thank you.
I'll tell people to hop on like
Google.
Google Maps and like creep the neighborhood in Google Maps. But
I do that.
maybe that's
I
the first
do.
layer
'cause,
of creep.
Going through the
second layer of
neighborhood
creep.
in the daytime's different than nighttime. It's
Yeah.
just vibes. Like I was always thinking whenever I would do is like, would I be fine with her walking with our dog at night? Yes or no? If the answer was yes, like I felt good, like with the offer and things like that. But if it was no, like
It's like probably
Also
take a
because my dog
pass.
would probably leave me. So
she's big, but like
too
she
scary.
likes to jog and stuff like that. It's like, and that was important to us. Like
Yeah.
being able to go outside and just at night feel fine.
Yeah. Like hashtag night vibes on there. Hashtag.
well, when
Not-
we were
we're
living
not
in the when we were living in the apartment,
Hashtag
he
what I
was
want.
like always making me carry pepper spray when I
Just
went
on
to
the-
go run.
we lived in Victory Park,
But it was like on the Katy Trail. Like, I mean, during
yeah,
the
the
day,
Katy
I
Trail at
never-
night.
There's some things that happen on
during
the
the
Yeah.
during the day,
At
I
night.
was
Yeah.
fine.
At night.
Yeah.
See? Night vibes.
It's gonna hashtag this under every Instagram short.
Last thing I think. Last thing I
Don't
just
you dare,
did.
Brittany. Don't.
Last thing. Hashtag. Is no harm in looking. Getting started. And I think the biggest thing is, I've had this is my first podcast of the day. Okay, so you should feel very special in this room. But I had met with someone before I came here and had 3 buyer consultations today. 2 of which I sat in person. One of which was a Zoom. The last one they're going to wait for 6 months, and they apologized a bunch that it's not the right time for them. And this is literally my job. Like I reminded them, like this is important to me. I don't want to discount the value of this, but this is what I do all day, every day. And is to help people. And a lot of the times that results in people moving forward, like I did with y'all. And sometimes it doesn't. And at the end of the day, Shelby and I are just here to help people towards owning a house and whatever that looks like through the journey. And just super honored for y'all to, number one, just go through the process with us and just be a huge blessing for us. And then just come in here today and just share your story with everybody.
Yeah. No, thank you guys for everything. And I'm just super happy. That was the real reason I found that. And I was frantically texting you to buy in Flower Mound was because there's no young married couples in Flower Mound. And I really wanted somebody who was in the same
Yeah, they went
city.
to our Friendsgiving.
We went to the Friendsgiving. No, and it was awesome. And that was your first one you ever hosted, I think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we never hosted because we didn't. own a
Clearly,
home.
we're getting used to the space.
You did great, and the meal was fantastic. But no, I'm very, very happy at how y'all started. That's kind of the perfect circumstance of like a success story for any agents. Be like, off market, we found it, we got a deal, your home equity is up. But no, thank you guys for even coming out here on a
y'all.
Friday and
Thank
speaking
you for
with us.
answering our constant
Yeah,
questions.
this shows. Yeah,
Hey Shelby, what about this?
Yeah.
Hey,
That-
Shelby, what
That
about
is
this?
exactly
Just
what
text
we.
Shelby.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
If somebody's not doing that, probably look elsewhere. I feel like I'm like.
And I make a good brisket. I must have lost my invite to the Friendsgiving. I must have got lost in
you
the
didn't
middle.
get it?
Not
Oh.
next time, though.
Sorry.
I make a good brisket, so you should invite me next time, just saying.